Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Jim and Sam Town Square. I'm Scott King. Jim and Sam fans know me from the Forbes articles, and I'm joined, as always, by multi-Emmy award-winning television producer Chris Cangilla. And this week, week 5 of August 2023, that is, the guys were on vacation. So we had a very special guest, only our second guest ever in the Town Square. We invited somebody that you all might know as JimAndSamDankMemes on Instagram, an incredible meme page. He also goes by Miguel from LA, a regular caller to Jim and Sam. So Miguel was quite extraordinary.
Yeah, he really was. And, not only is he a guy that brings a lot of joy and fun to his Instagram page and to us Jim and Sam's fans, but boy, he had some interesting stories of some brush with greatness, as well as how COVID really knocked him for a loop.
100%. Yeah, I thought it would be great just because he's a super fan, but he had some pretty interesting stories, pretty deep stuff, and the show got him through some hard times. So
absolutely. So without further delay, here's Miguel from LA joining us in the Town Square.
Miguel, welcome to the Town Square. We're very flattered. We heard you were a fan, so thank you so much for joining us. And your work with the Jim and Sam DankMemes Instagram account is just incredible. So I want to hear how you became a Jim and Sam fan. I think you were an 08 fan first. How did you discover them? And just tell me about your fandom.
Well, I discovered O&A in January of 2014 because I used to be a Stern fan, but he got very, pretty dull. And I started listening to O&A like 5 months or so before Anthony got fired. And then, I moved on to Opie and Jim, the train wreck that was. And then, when Sam had his night show, that's where I really became a fan.
So, Miguel, you show your fandom in many ways, of course, listening and maybe calling in every once in a while. But how did you start this Instagram? How did you come up with the idea? And it's just taken off and it makes me chuckle every time I get to see it. And I know the guys like it. So tell us about that.
Oh, well, I got it started because, during 2020, during the pandemic, none of us can go out, especially in California where I'm at. We were stuck here at home. We couldn't even go anywhere to eat or to parks or anything like that. So I was stuck here 24/7. So I was like, you know what, just let me start a meme page and see how that goes, just to focus some, my energy and my time, other than my kids, obviously, but, just something to make people laugh. I always like making people laugh and whatnot. So, and then I started in 2020 and it's been going good ever since.
Yeah, it's really enjoyable, and it seems to be taking off. So as we can tell, you said you're in California, in Los Angeles. Tell us some of the stuff that you have behind us without, getting out of the shot. But what do you got going on behind there? You're a collector as well, huh?
Yeah, pretty much like bobbleheads, arcades and whatnot, autographed baseballs and baseball bats. I like going to
Kiss posters. Do you have Kiss posters?
No, but if I did, I'm pretty sure I could think of a good Facebook page for if I ever want some.
Yeah, it makes sense, huh?
I think there's someone who would outbid you a lot, so you might want to stay away from that.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell us, you go by the listeners of Jim and Sam might know you as Miguel from LA, but tell us about the man behind the memes. Who is Miguel from LA? What do you do? Where are you? Who are you? What can you tell us?
Well, I'm 34 and I was born in LA and then I lived in Compton and my life has been pretty crazy, especially during the pandemic where I got COVID and I had to be in a coma for 6 to 7 days.
Oh,
and it's just been very crazy. And then ever since then, like right now, I still can't work because I'm having lung problems and
oh, dude,
I can't go very far without my oxygen. But like right now, like I'm fine. I don't need to have it on me while I'm talking to you guys. But if I want to walk around or do anything else, then yeah, I do need it.
Wow, I had no idea that you went through that. And so I would imagine, as you're kind of healing up and stuff, you're listening to Jim and Sam, and I don't think you're going to do this. Maybe you're a real dedicated fan, but you're not getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning in California and listening live, are you?
Oh yeah, definitely I am.
Wow.
I get up every day at 4:30 because my kids are up at that time pretty much. And, since I'm not working, I get them ready for school. And, what better way for me to get them ready for school than to listen to, the guys, making me laugh every morning.
Miguel, did you call in and tell them kind of what had happened to you with the call? I remember a caller saying that they were in a coma after COVID. Was that you?
Yeah, that was me. I told the guys because I wanted to thank them in a way because I feel that they kind of helped me get through that because my wife, she had the idea of putting like Beats headphones on me and having the show on while I was in a coma. And she said that like she had that idea because people next to me were dying. And I had 6 different roommates at that time. All of them died. And every single time they would die, their families would come and, say their goodbyes to them. And I guess my vitals would go out of control. My heart rate would go up to 200. My oxygen would go down to like 40. So she just had the idea that, like, you know what, maybe he can hear everything that's going on and maybe it's freaking him out and he doesn't want to hear that. So she had the idea of putting on the headphones. And ever since then, like, I never had an issue with any of my vitals.
That's incredible. And what a woman you got there, man. That's so cool. And she took good
Definitely.
care of you. That's awesome. How many kids do you have?
I have 2 boys.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, Scott and I always
Yeah.
talk about our kids, and I'm closer to Jim's age. Scott's a little bit around, Sam and Travis's age. So, and you are too a little bit. So yeah, it's all about,
A little bit.
raising your kids in different ways. And yeah, I mean, I think it's an amazing story, and we're lucky to have you because, the Instagram it's just great. The things that you share and your insight, it's you can tell that you're a true fan and you're really, dialed in to what's going on there.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I listen to the guys every morning. Sometimes, like, I listen to the show live, and then if I got nothing going on in the afternoon, I listen to the show again to see, anything I missed and any little subtle things they throw around. So,
Yeah, I noticed that in doing this podcast that Scott and I have taken on that I listen a little differently. I used to just listen, enjoy it. Now I got to go, I got to make a note about this
Yeah.
because I want to make sure I talk to Scott about whatever happened.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, of course.
Chris takes excellent notes. I will say excellent notes. Miguel, when you called in, I remember that so vividly now. And I think your story is an example, and Chris and I have talked about this of, on a much smaller scale, when something's going on in your life, it's a little stressful. What you went through is, incredible, obviously not in a good way. But someone's stressed out about something, work, family, like you listen to the show and you're just laughing or you're just in a good mood. And I think you conveyed that in your call. And usually when people call in to tell the guys, oh, you make my life easier, they're not like, I don't think they take that well, but I remember them really appreciating your call. And that brings me to my next question. How much do you think you've gotten love from the guys over the years? Because I know the name Miguel from LA. I know a lot of listeners do too.
Oh, definitely. Funny story. Back in 2017, I was out there in New York, and that was like right after, like a year after the guys started the show. And I was at the B-Dubs in Times Square, and I see Sam and Troy walk in, like out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, wow. So I'm like, hey, Sam. And he remembered me because I met him once out here in LA like a few years back. And he invited me to have lunch with him and Troy, and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. What a great guy. I mean, my
that
soul would
is
leave
so
my
cool.
body. My soul would leave my body if I'm there and it's something they talk about like all the time on the show, like Jersey Mike's or B-Dubs, and they just walk in. I'd be like,
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's really cool, man. I like hearing those stories. When we wanted to have you on the podcast and talk to you, I had no idea that we'd kind of talk about these kinds of things, and it's cool to not only hear your story but also hear the story of the guys that we like so much, just being regular dudes and like, hey, man, I remember. You want to sit and have lunch with us? That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Going back to the show a little bit, we talk about how much Scott and I love it, but do you have some ongoing bits or gags that you think, that are some of the best stuff and that you always remember when you think about Jim and Sam?
Well, like right now, the ongoing bit is with Jim and his kids posters. Like those were like they always make me laugh. But like my all-time favorite ones were back in the shitloaf era. Like those were the best. Like when successful folder, creepy messages on Facebook. We can make an arrangement. Things like that.
The
Like
creative
those
part
were
of
always my
Rob
favorite, like
Green.
the best ones.
Remember the creative
Yeah,
part of Rob
exactly.
Green? Yeah, yeah, some good production.
Oh,
Creative
definitely,
part.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like going back and trying. Scott goes back and listens more than I do to past shows. I don't do that as much, so it's
I,
always nice when he kind
I
of
do.
strikes my memory.
Oh yeah, I like this past week that the guys have been on vacation. I've listened to a lot of the past shows. I just listened to the Shitloaf versus Rob. When Troy almost beat up Shitloaf because of the Halloween costume. Like those were my favorite ones.
Yeah,
Those are incredible.
we got a chance to talk to Troy about that specific event and how upset he was and why he was so upset. How did you hear about us? How did you come across the old town square here?
Well, I usually, constantly every single day, I either search up O&A or Jim and Sam, and all of a sudden I see like, oh, Jim and Sam Town Square, and I'm like, oh, this is something new. Let me see what it is. And I saw both of you talk about it. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, let me check it out. Anybody that takes the time and effort to, start a podcast about a show that they like, especially about a show that I like as well. I was like, you know what? Like, let me give them a listen, see how they're doing, and I liked it pretty much.
Thanks,
Oh,
man.
thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it.
So you said that you started calling in when Sam had his night show. You kind of became a regular caller then. How often would you say you've called into Jim and Sam? Is it like, do you try to just something you do like once a week, or is it just when you want to weigh in on something? How often you call in, you think?
Before my accident, I would call in like once a month or so, just to make them laugh or whatever. But like, just this past call I called in, I think I called in when Sam had his BLM songs and everybody was making fun of him. But like, I kind of don't want to call in that much. I kind of don't want to be like those callers that like thinks that they're part of the show, and I don't want to get a big ego and all that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big ego. I think, I think people appreciate your calls. I think the guys do too. Obviously, real quick, I want to tell you my favorite Jim and Sam Dank memes that you've done. To me, and I want to hear what Chris thinks too. But to me, there's no, you can put these together. There's no outdoing. And I think this is kind of recent. Jim and Sam as the Island Boys was perfect. It's perfect. And
Oh yeah.
There's been so much. There's been so much with poor Iraq. But him in the karate gi is possibly your Mona Lisa.
Oh really? Oh, thank you.
It's
Appreciate it.
incredible. So you got Chris. Do you have any? And I kind of want to.
Yeah, I was just gonna. We were just talking right before you came on, Miguel, and I'm like, Did you just do one of a guy that looks like Jim, and you called him Chipper or something? Did that just come out, or did I just see that somewhere else?
Oh yes, someone actually sent that to me on messages. I wish I can give them credit, but like, he showed me this post of a guy that literally makes the Chippa face, and I was like, wow, I need to post this. It looks just like Chip.
Yeah, it was incredible. How long does it take you usually? I know they're all different and they all have different things, but are you getting in there and doing a lot of the the Photoshop stuff, or are you just kind of putting it all together within the app?
No, not really. Like the other day I was watching Goodfellas, and that's when I made that Jim and Goodfellas meme where Pesci
They're
gets
walking
shot
in.
from behind.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, like because I was just watching Goodfellas, I was like, you know what, that would be a good meme to make of like one of the guys, and anything that's like funny or relevant. I try to incorporate that to the show, and if try to make people laugh.
The Norton antivirus one is really good too. That's a new one. He's got a suit. It says security at it. It's from Colin Quinn's cop show, right? That picture.
Yes.
Have you ever felt like bad about a meme? Have you ever felt like that went a little far? Have you ever taken any down, or have you ever felt bad about any? Or is it just all in good fun, you think?
It's all in good fun, but like there was one that I wanted to post, and I'm not gonna say which one it is, but I was like, if I post this, it'll be really bad. Like it's like it would have been about Steve C, but if I posted it,
Yeah.
it would have been like, well, like in very bad taste.
Yeah, I can get that. I mean, there's things that we don't discuss here because, there's some privacy stuff that guys want to keep private, and we want to respect that as well. But you got to tell us a little bit about the recent stuff with Opie. Can you share that story?
Oh yeah, I guess Opie's like the worst person. I was the worst person he ever met, apparently, because he always constantly rags on Jim and Sam. Oh, like those guys aren't good, especially with Sam. Like he has the biggest problem with Sam because apparently, he says that Sam will never make it in the business, even though he's on TV a lot, even though he's doing his wrestling events. And Opie's just on the beach picking his nose and eating his boogers. And I asked them, hey, stop ragging on the guys. Like at least they have a show. Like you constantly talk about O&A but when they talk about you, when Anthony talks about you, you get really mad and say, leave it alone, leave me alone. So he got really upset and he blocked me off of, commenting ever again on his YouTube. So, but hey, $5 well spent.
Yeah, that's crazy. I do notice that, he does say he wants to move on from that, but then every post he has, he's hashtagging O&A and Colin Quinn and everybody he's ever met through the years. So I just like either get away from it or just admit it and say, look, I want to talk about the good old days. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to play the victim and like say, leave me alone. Don't talk about me. But at the same time, like those are the only things that are getting him constant views on his channel. If you look at anything else he posts on the channel, he'll probably only have like 20 views. But anything O&A is constantly 1K views all the time. So
yeah, it's almost really one-sided. There's big kind of phases where he's only cutting O&A clips or Jim and Sam clips on his own YouTube. So again, you said like he's saying he's trying to move on or whatever, but and I think the guys have made fun of this too, but he does not move on. All he does is talk about Opie and Anthony, Jim, Sam. So yeah, he's still, benefiting from that somehow. I mean, it's probably not a ton of money. It's some YouTube.
I like how the guys do make fun of those kinds of things because they never really come straight out and do it right. They kind of go around it, just like they make fun of E-Rock, hey, all that stuff. They make fun of these guys without doing it. And I think it's great in the case of Opie because he can't say, what you guys are talking about. It's like, yeah, where, when, which just shows that he's, listening and he has to really dissect it because they never go out and say, yeah, Opie's a jerk. Occasionally they'll say some things like that, but usually, I'll be like, yeah, I worked with a really tough partner at one point in my life. They'll say stuff like that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when was it? This past week, Karen said something about Troy acting like Opie, and somebody screen grabbed it from my page and posted it on Twitter, and he commented on it, and he was very upset about it. Like I forgot what he said, something about like they haven't done anything in the business for them to be talking to him that way or something like that.
Yeah, it was weird because, we haven't heard a lot of that. Yeah, we haven't heard a lot of the name brought up, and then Karen did it and it just kind of spiraled, which, is exactly why, Jim and Sam don't ever mention it because like, who needs it? They don't need to prove anything. They're already there.
Yeah, that was hilarious. It was Karen came in and she's like, talking about how she has some new jokes. And then Troy, without missing a beat, goes, "Oh yeah, you got some jokes? Tell us some of your jokes." That's right. And, they just gave him so much grief because they would never do that to like Bobby Kelly or anyone. That was hilarious. Miguel, let me ask you this. I think I agree with what Chris is saying. Like they don't want to dive all the way in with Opie. It's like an E-Rock comment. It's like half a second here or there, but it's a nod to the audience. We laugh wherever we're listening. Do you think they don't want to give him like ground to speak on? Or here's my other thing, like, and Opie in the past has talked about his mom had mental health issues, that he's working on his. I don't know if he still is or not, but he's ranting and sometimes he looks a little disheveled. Do you think it's kind of like we don't want to keep going back to that well? It's not good. Like that situation, he might not be doing too well is kind of what I'm trying to say. You ever think about it that way? Maybe does that ever strike you?
Yeah, but honestly, at the end of the day, they kind of don't want to beat a dead horse. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's not like like he's not an interesting guy to begin with. So like, why would they talk about somebody that's not interesting at all?
It's kind of
So
funny.
at the
And
end of the
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, sorry. Like at the end of the day, like you're talking about a guy that's like yelling on his laptop um, about the old days. Like you might as well just put him in Times Square, like with any random homeless person, and it's like you can't really tell the difference.
Yeah.
You know?
Um, it's funny. I know you came on and listening, probably a little closer to the end of the O&A. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. So, I listened pretty early on. I think Scott did as well. And there were times when Opie was a good person to have in that room. Now, he wouldn't like to admit it, but he kind of steered the ship and made sure we got places where we need to do and let Jim and Anthony just roll and the comedians and stuff. I think it was when he got in a little later where he felt he was at the same kind of comedic timing that they were at, where it got to be problematic. But, I didn't really mind Opie too much until those later years. And he even had like I think he did a documentary show, a couple episodes of a documentary show where he had guys on and they talked, and I love that stuff. So there's some things that he did bring in, but yeah, I mean, also he just killed the fun a lot of the times.
Oh, definitely. He would always kill the fun. Go to snowy in Michigan. Like no one wants to hear from a guy from Michigan. And like like he would have been like if he sees how Sam is on the show, like Sam's a funny guy. Like I'm not saying Sam is Opie, but like if you compare, Sam and Opie, like Sam is like very, he doesn't step over the jokes. Like for example, like when they were making fun of his BLM songs, like he let the guys make fun of him. If that was Opie, he would have been like, I don't know, guys.
Maybe you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Miguel. You really did because Sam he still has to kind of take that lead of kind of being the straight guy and taking where we're going next and all those kinds of things and setting Jim up, and he does a fabulous job. He's also funnier than Opie ever was. He can tell jokes and he can get his 2 cents in there. But he doesn't have a big ego in this whole thing, and I think it makes the whole room at ease because everybody can rip on anybody, and Sam's ego
Yes.
is not in play there. Is there you don't have to pick a favorite, but what do you think of the supporting staff? I mean, with Mike and Travis and Troy, do you like them? Does one not fit in? I mean, I don't want you to have to throw anybody under the bus. What do you think of those guys?
No, like they're all pretty good in their own way. Like personally, Mike Montel's my favorite one. Because he kind of, he's like very funny and in his own way. And then Travis, he's kind of smug, funny in his way. And then Troy, the king of conquest, he's like very funny, with Contra Dumbass and like, the things that he does. Like, he's very funny. Like they're all like honestly like they're all like great on the show. Like you can't really pick one weak link of the show.
Give me more about that lunch. Like, what else do you remember? Like, what'd you guys talk about? What were the guys like having a meal with them? Troy and Sam, that is.
Oh, that was like 6 years ago, but like I don't remember like every single detail, but like they were pretty cool to me. We were talking about it, everything, and it was an eventful lunch. Like they were talking about like obviously like they couldn't talk about everything in front of me because like they didn't want to give any behind the scenes stuff away because that was during that time where yeah I think that was when Opie was doing his afternoon show, so they didn't want
Yeah, yeah.
to talk about him in a bad way because but I me being a fan I would ask him, hey, how is how's Opie doing? He's like, oh, he's doing good, and I try to make little jokes but like they kind of wouldn't you know
They wouldn't take the
you know
bait.
It's a weird
talk
time.
about him, which I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Miguel, the Instagram page is great. Where do you see that going? Where would you like it to go over the next couple of years?
Pretty much just the same way that it's going right now, just making people laugh and interacting with other fans of the show. Like that makes me like want to do the page because I interact with people from all over, the country and even sometimes all over the world that love the show. Like, people tell me, "Oh, I love the show, and I also love your memes." I listen, I try to listen all the way from Australia, UK, like a lot of different places. I even have a couple friends out there in Mexico that listen to the show as well.
That's awesome.
So before we let you go, we just want to make sure that everybody knows to go to Jim and Sam Dank DANK memes on Instagram, and you'll be able to follow along like we do. If you haven't gone there, it's a great follow, and it'll make you laugh for sure. And if you're a fan like us, you'll be right in it.
Of course, thank you very much, guys, for promoting the page and for doing your show. And like whenever the guys are off Fridays and you guys post your show on Fridays, it's so more Jim and Sam content to get me through the week.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate you making time for us. And maybe when the Dodgers and the Cubs, get together, we might have to get together ourselves. But until then, we appreciate you being in the town square.
Thank you to Miguel for an awesome interview. So glad he joined us in the town square. Incredible stories about, him getting COVID and having to be in a coma, and his wife having the headphones on him so he could listen to the show while he's in a coma, and then going to B-Dubs in New York and meeting Troy and Sam and them being so kind to him. So everybody, follow Jim and Sam Dank Memes on Instagram. Big thanks to Miguel. Chris, I thought he was awesome.
Yeah, he really was. And it just brought this different kind of perspective of a dedicated fan. He listened. I made that joke about him, I thought it was a joke about him getting up early on the West Coast and listening live, and he does. And then he listens again. So, yeah, a true fan and a wonderful guy to have around. So it was a great week. Even though the guys are off, it was a great week.
Absolutely. And thank you, man, for all you do, Chris. I appreciate it. Great to see you. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening.
Absolutely. We can't thank you enough for being here with us. And we appreciate every time you stop by the town square.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, not dog bell, so you don't miss an episode.
And if you're just listening to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it.